to play. Warriors, come out to play. Warriors, come out to play.
In Africa, we had a reason to be born there. So we have a God. We have our gods and we have our mode of worship.
Queens, nod your head if you know you got soul. Women, snap your fingers, let your head wrap roll. Come on. Kings, got us feeling like we H-Rap Brown. All my brothers, put your hand on the chest now.
Freedom's what we need, more solutions is the key. Wave the banner of the free, that's the red, black and green. Bringing truth to the streets, water get no enemy. If it's peace, we at ease. If it's war, we don't cease. EYEs on the crackers and police. Never slack up even when we free, cause we ain't free until we get the land, that's the green. Black power, new African, liberated from the thieves. Nothing better else to be.
Queens, nod your head if you know you got soul. Women, snap your fingers, let your head wrap roll. Come on. Kings, got us feeling like we H-Rap Brown. All my brothers, put your hand on your chest now.
Stimulated cause I'm liberated. Rock me Africa medallion in the middle of the clan. Situation freedom come drum playing by the river. I deliver for my people. It's the sequel of revenge. My friends get ready. Every neat shell valve, every tone shell tail on the mountain I reveal. Throw the shells, 4 lights side up. Dark one up in my cup, pour it out and then I strut. Alafia, dear.
Queens, nod your head if you know you got soul. Women, snap your fingers, let your head wrap roll. Come on. Kings, got us feeling like we H-Rap Brown. All my brothers, put your hand on your chest now.
When the African doesn't want to understand or participate in the reason why he was born,
Queens, nod your head if you know you got soul. Women, snap your fingers, let your head wrap roll. Come on. Kings, got us feeling like we H-Rap Brown. All my brothers, put your hand on your chest now.
see, Africa has not been able to contribute its own knowledge to this universe. But we have knowledge in Africa. You understand?
Yeah, of course.
You see, so all these things need to be in the education system of the African countries.
ETM Hotel, Rennie Sean. Welcome in peace. My name is Sean. Alafia, John Mayan Boko. Peace to everybody out there in the chat. Those of you who will catch the live on the replay. And those of you who will slowly enter in unless something else is going on. I'm trying to buy a little time before I get started. So I do want to say peace to 9x9, Mansa, Double R was good. Those of you who have not commented in the chat yet, peace to you all. Those of you who oppose what this bill would be about, peace to you as well. Like I said, I'm just trying to fire up the channel, providing good, solid content. Anything that I discussed today will also be in the description of the video. We need to make sure that people are providing us with the same literature that they are reading in these conversations. You know, if we're gonna live by the mantra "source up or shut up," then demonstration, like Asar always said, demonstration beats conversation. So we need to start seeing a lot more demonstration and less cherry picking and look what I ran into or this, that, and the third. So um, what I want to do here is I want to go in the text. The name of the text is called Teaching Native American History with Primaries. So I want to go in there and grab a timeline. Now, this book is written in the format of a teaching format, and I made it accessible to anybody who want to get it. I got you. I listen. I got you. Like I said, anything you see me show today, I got you. It is yours. All you have to do is go in the description of this particular video and you can capture any source that I bring up on the screen as always. I see that we got the bar reloaded talking about before they go live, trying to slander my dear brother, but it's all good. You know what I'm saying? It's all good. We're gonna rock out. But no, man, back to the reality of it all. So I want to go in this particular text, and I might not refer to it a lot here, but I want to show you what they're actually doing. They're actually trying to help inspire, uplift, and teach. But yesterday, man, after listening to the video that the brother we played, um, it made me think, and it sent me on a few thoughts all day. And what I thought about was not only does he not have any research methodology, he doesn't know how to critique a source. He doesn't go and verify the author's claims. He doesn't try to substantiate what it is that he's actually reading. So he's handicapping other Black people who believe that he's doing research, and his audience members believe that what he is doing is actual research. Nah, he just Google something and he go live and he want to talk about it. Look, see, they say this here. Look, see, they say this there. Look, see, we the Native Americans. Look, see, we all over the world. But that's not how this conversation has to happen. And it damn sure isn't spearheaded by claiming, have you done your genealogy? Doing your genealogy is excellent. Everyone should do their genealogy, right? If you want to spend time sitting down and doing that. But that's not the end all be all. That tells part of the story. Only part of the story. Hold on one second, y'all. Let me get my screen right. All right, so let me get my screen shared, man. My apologies. What up, Juju? What's good with you? Again, man, like the show, share the show. Like always, I know as soon as I start trying to break down the information and go in the direction that I need to go in, it's gonna be some people that's gonna hop in here and you know what I mean. Oh, I'm late. It's gonna be the I'm late people. What up, brother Lavelle? I agree with you on this. He sucks on his methodology. Somebody I think called the research guy. Yeah, that's his name, but that's his name. You gonna teach, bro? You can't teach. You said you gonna teach where I failed to. No slander. Cap, cap. You gonna confuse us. That's what you're gonna do when you go live. You're gonna mess the whole argument up. But now, let me get off that, man. So here's the text that I'm referring you to, talking about teaching American Indian history with primaries. All right. So let me make it big on the screen. That should be big enough for everybody to actually see. I just want to go in here and talk about this timeline real quick. Desmond said, asking someone for the 5 times great grandmother is crazy because you have 16 of them. So I guess you pick only the Indian one. Actually, Mansa, I had a conversation with Mansa this morning, and he was like, bro, this, you talking about 5 times. Do you know how many relatives in between that? Because them grandparents is having kids and yada, yada, yada. Bro, it's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. And then it's not even picking 5 times. It's also the extra. The extra stuff is coming off the boat. You know what I mean? Like that was stupid. Why would you even say that, bro? We can get to the manifest, the shipping manifest, but people names changed on those manifests. They don't have last names on their manifest. And in the United States, they didn't start keeping record until when? 1790. That's the first census. They didn't keep no records before that. So you telling me during the slave trade, right? During the slave trade, in the 1400s, in the mid 1400s, when they began to start snatching people and taking them in all these different places. We ain't talking about none of that. So we don't want to talk about, you see what I'm saying? We don't want to talk about where they took bodies before then, because remember, South America and the Caribbeans, those are the first places that they start dropping off bodies. Yeah. Right? After they done came over here and established that the people were weak over here, they done gave these people diseases over here. They done did all of these things to these people over here. Then they started taking the people to Europe and found out that they couldn't do farm nothing. No sugar, no tobacco, no corn, no nothing. They didn't work hard enough. And they was getting messed up from that. So what they did, they went back and got information. They went back and made it, documented it, and got documents signed to say that it was okay to enslave Africans and then carry them on to the New World and do their thing. So here we are today as a people, Black people in America, and we're confused about who we are and our identity. You have people arguing, well, 1 in every 20 Black people got Native American ancestry. 1 in every 20, huh? But them people don't want to take DNA to substantiate if they got Native American DNA in them. They don't want to do that. That's too much like right. See, the DNA will help you substantiate your story. But unfortunately, you don't want to go that far. So when you reach, I teach. Chris Harris was on the elbows line 2 today. They never had no source. Some J-Cat said they spoke English and his tribe was American, but a colonizer came over here. He made that up. See? You would have 128 fifth generation great grandparents pick the Indian and go from there. All right, so here's a brief timeline of the history of the Indian nations in North America. The first humans arrived in North America between 15 and 12,000 BCE. Now, there's going to be scientific evidence that actually would change this date and push this date back further, meaning that instead of it being between 15 and 12,000 BCE, we're looking more so between 20-ish BCE or BP, before present. All right, because we're talking about a time period of the last glacial maximum, and it was uninhabitable lands. You feel me? And in that ice cap, you couldn't live there. You couldn't live on top of no ice. You ain't got no vegetation. You ain't got nothing. But through time, right, something occurred, allowing that glacial maximum to split. And then you have this bridge or this area where you actually can come through. They say hunting game and chasing game and all of that coming through. And we're going to get into all of that because I want to talk about that. But let me just go through the timeline real quick and then I bring you forward. So they say in 1000 CE, 1,000 years, Vikings established a camp in Newfoundland and abandoned it 10 years later. So the Vikings came over here, then said, F this, and went back home. In 1492, Europeans arrived in North America. 1565, St. Augustine, Florida was settled in the first European settlement for the United States. 1607, Jamestown. 1620, the Puritans on the Mayflower arrived in Massachusetts. 1633, smallpox kills thousands of Native Americans in New England. 1636 to 1638, the Pawcatuck War. 7,000 American Indians are slaughtered by English settlers and their Indian allies. 1672, the term noble savage is coined by the British poet John Dryden. 1754, French and Indian War begins, pitting France and the Indians allies against Britain. 1763. Now, why is this instrumental? 1760s, y'all. Remember this. The Treaty of Paris ends the French and Indian War. Great Britain claims all French territories in North America. French forces desert their American allies. Now, 763, King George III forbids European settlement beyond the Appalachian Mountains. 1783, the American Revolution ends. Great Britain deserts its American Indian allies. The Treaty of Fox-Stanwick was 1684, laying beyond the proclamation line of 1763 to American settlement. We still ain't got to the 1790. It is a skip there because they start counting stuff. Now, remember, this is the focus of Indians and not the whole entirety of American history. 1803, Louisiana Territory is purchased. The Tecumseh War begins in the Indian Territory in 1810. 1812, war breaks out between the U.S. and Great Britain, aided by Native allies. 1813, Indian settlers tensions result in the Creek War. 1814, you got the Treaty of Fort Jackson signed, ending the Creek War. Creek Indians cede much of their land in Georgia and Alabama. So now the Creeks is moving from Georgia and Alabama. 1821, an Indian known as the Sequoia creates a writing system for the Cherokee language. 1821, Cherokee language. 1823, the state of Georgia begins efforts to remove Cherokees from land claimed by the U.S. 1823, Supreme Court case, you have Johnson versus McIntosh, deprives Indians of the rights to sell their land to private bidders. 1828, you got two things that happen. You have Andrew Jackson elected president. The first American Indian newspaper was called the Cherokee Phoenix. This is key, ladies and gentlemen. You can Google and pull this information up. Let me move my box out of the way so y'all can see this clearly. I see that there is a little image of me off to the left. And I want to make sure that that's all the way. Boom. There we go. All right. So the Cherokee Phoenix, you can look that up. Something that you should know about. You ain't heard nobody who claimed Cherokee talk about the Cherokee Phoenix. That's a part of their history. They should know that. The state of Georgia in 1828 also annuls the Cherokee Constitution. 1829, gold is discovered in the Cherokee lands within Georgia's borders. So you already know the Indians got to go. They found gold. 1830, the Indian Removal Act narrowly passes and signed into law by the president. 1831, the Supreme Court case Cherokee Nation versus Georgia declares the Cherokee the dependent nation. They may not seek redress in American courts for grievances incurred by the state government. 1832, the Supreme Court Worcester versus Georgia, affirming native sovereignty, constitutes a partial reversal of Johnson versus McIntosh. In 1833, the Second Treaty of Chicago was signed. The Potawatomi cede large parts of what will become Michigan, including the land where Chicago will be built. 1835, the Treaty of the New Echito initiates the Trail of Tears. Scorned by most of Cherokees, the treaty is signed by a small party of pro-removal American Indians. 1837, the first wave of Cherokees moves westward with Cherokee leader Major Ridge. 1838, a deadline for voluntary removal is set for May. Between 14 and 16,000 Cherokees began existing their traditional lands. 1839, Major Ridge, his son John Ridge, and Elias Boynott are murdered by fellow Cherokees in incest over removals. 1845, John O'Sullivan coins the phrase manifest destiny, labeling a new American ideology. 1860, the first Indian boarding school is established at Yakima Reservation in Washington. 1871, the government ceased treaty making the native nations. 1879, Richard Henry Pratt establishes the training and industrial schools at the Carlisle Barracks in Pennsylvania. 1887, ladies and gentlemen, is the infamous Dawes Act is passed, encouraging American Indians to forsake tribal life and become independent farmers. 1893, the World's Columbian Exposition takes place in Chicago, celebrating the 400th anniversary of Columbus' arrival to the Americas. 1924, American Indians are granted U.S. citizenship, partly because of high rates of enlisted for service during World War I. The Merriam Report in 1928 released, with much of it 847 pages lambasting the conditions of Indians in boarding school. 1934, you got Roosevelt signs the Indian Reorganization Act. 1936, the federal recognition is extended to Alaska. 1941 to 45, you had American Indians enlisted in World War II. 1944, the National Congress of American Indians is founded by graduates of boarding schools, urban Indians, and others from a united front in the struggle for American Indian rights. 53 through 68, termination. The government reverses the transition to self-govern that stated that the Indian Reorganization Act seeking to dissolve Indian nations in an effort to assimilate them. 1968, the 60s, Black people are doing what? Fighting for their own. The same time that the Indians are fighting for their own. So there's a multitude of fights going on in the 60s. This is strictly about the Indian. The Indian Civil Rights Act. Oh, you didn't know one existed, did you? Not the Civil Rights Act of the 1960s. The Indian Civil Rights Act is signed into law in 1968. You didn't know that? Okay, that's fine. I give you that. 69, the group Indians of all tribes occupies Alcatraz Island. 70, Nixon officially ends the policies of termination of assimilation and announces that henceforth the Indian future is determined by Indian acts and Indian decisions to self-govern. In 1988, trials began to open casinos amid a continuous struggle with the local and federal authorities. Revenues from gaming is spent on healthcare, infrastructure projects, and land purchases. All right, so I'm going to stop right there. That's a lot of history in that timeline right there, even though it is skipping a majority to sum up what was going on specifically for Indians in each year as much as they can obtain. Pretty tough, but we can confirm all of these things. So I want to go back to and not limit our ability. Hold up. This timeline. The first humans arriving in North America. I want to come back to that timeline, right? All right. Again, man, like this show, share the show, tell a friend, we live. What up, Keenan? Let me see what the chat's saying. Before the colonizer came over here, talk about it. My grandmama said, her grandmama said that her grandmama said, oh man. It's a lot of grandmama said. So let me move on to the next source. Now that we have a framework, I want to remember, I want to talk about the first Indians, but I want to do it within the confines of an actual structure. So what I'm about to do now is I want to share something else with you. It's called History in the Making. It's the United States before Columbus. You should be able to see my screen. All right, so it did change. And let me move this out of the way. And I want to make it. So here's chapter 1. This is the United States before Columbus. This is also accessible to you. Like I said, anything that I talk about, it's always going to be in the description. If you're interested, you take it a step further. But what I want to talk about is the scientific theories of origin. Nope, I don't want to talk about origin stories. I don't want to talk about none of that. I want to go a little bit further. What do y'all think I want to go? You guessed it. Paleo-Indian era through agricultural revolution, right? But in that, do I really want to go there? I'm going to show y'all. Let me go on through here real quick. Now, this is a nice little chapter right here. Look what the introduction says. The history of the country that will eventually come to be called the United States begins long before the birth of a nation. Native Americans first inhabited North American continent some 14,000 years ago, if not earlier. This earliest era is known as the Paleo-Indian era. It is closely identified with one of the most famous archaeological artifacts in the Americas, the Clovis Point, which was used to hunt megafauna, the giant animals of the Pleistocene era, such as mammoth and mastodon. The eras following the Archaic and Woodland were marked by the development of the plant domestication and the incipient agriculture, one of the most important developments in human history. Two of the earliest centers for plant domestication were the Mesoamerican and the modern-day southeastern United States. Finally, the period just before European contact and characterized by the development of many rich and diverse cultures. In the region that was to become the United States, there was some 500 groups, each with its own language, culture, and religion. I'm gonna go out on a limb and tell y'all this right now. There was about, I'm gonna say this, there was about 1,000 tribes that were here before Columbus. 1,000. And when I say here, I'm talking about not just in North America, but I'm talking about North America, Canada, Central and South America. All right, about 1,000. If you agree or don't agree with that, let me know. I'm looking in the chat. All right, so we ain't got to deal with learning outcomes because we know that they ain't gonna learn nothing. Like I told you about origin stuff, I really don't want to get into all of that, but when Columbus first encountered the Western Hemisphere in 1492, it was inhabited by millions of people. Establishing a firm estimate of the population is troublesome. Often, such estimates are tinged with the ideological viewpoints of the authors, their cultures or origins, and the eras in which they wrote. Until recent decades, historians and scientists tended to make very low estimates of native populations, as conventional wisdom held that inferior indigenous people could not sustain the same kinds of dense populations as Europeans. More recently, estimates have soared for a variety of reasons. For example, some scholars speculate that estimates of populations have become too inflated because of the desire to emphasize the devastation that European contact caused the indigenous population. Current estimates hold that as much as a fifth of the world's population, 43 to 65 million people, inhabited the Western Hemisphere at contact. Estimates of North American population, excluding Mexico, vary from a low 7 million to a high 18 million. A great deal of cultural diversity estimated among this population. Hundreds of groups spoke hundreds of languages organized their societies in a myriad of social and political ways, enacted innumerable rituals, and worshiped in a multitude of gods. Let me be clear here. Before Columbus arrived, people had already established their own thing that they had going. It kills me when we act like that black people came over here and gave them language, gave them art, gave them math, gave them a calendar, gave them all these other things. We didn't do that. Homo sapiens sapien, modern human, have the complexion to solve problems, to think and design and create on their own merit. It doesn't take one civilization to be able to do something else. Why am I saying that? It's because I was looking at a YouTube video earlier today by this brother, and I reached out to him to see if I could actually play his video because there's a lot of corrections that need to be made in the video. And then at the earlier point of the video, within like the first 3 minutes, he has some nice science in there that substantiates and adds some and answers some good questions that he asked initially in the onset. But then he went and blacked it out toward the end, and he messed everything up, relying on some pseudoscience. However, he was insinuating that blacks gave these people this, that, and the third, and that was just horribly wrong. Horribly, horribly wrong. Now, I'm saying that to say that man has been smart. They made tools. When I say man, early man, I'm talking about going all the way back to the earliest Homo. Developing stone tools, starting fires, cooking food, shelter, all of that stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like, man been growing and developing and adapting to nature for forever. So I want to kind of get this last little paragraph in, and then I'm gonna move on, because a lot of people talk about skin tone and all of that stuff, and then they set up something different. So another problem we face in examining the early period in U.S. history is one of the nomenclature. What do we call the indigenous peoples of America? Every term has its advantages and flaws. Some terms have been dismissed as racist, Red Indian. Others have become outdated, Eskimo. Some view terms like Native American or First Peoples, the preferred term in Canada, as so politically correct that they are meaningless. Terms like Aboriginal and Indigenous assert a global identity for Native people. However, the term Aboriginal has become so closely associated with the Australian Aborigines that it seems to exclude others. Moreover, while the notion of global identity for indigenous peoples is useful in some instances, it is far too broad an idea to be useful in others. In the U.S., many of the use the term Native American, which first came into use in 1980s as a means of to indicate their primacy as the first peoples of the land. In general, the preference of Native peoples in the self-identifies their own tribal affinity. The Chickasaw, Ojibwa, Arapaho, etc. In terms of a larger overarching term of the group as a whole, the 1995 survey of Native Americans in the United States indicates that the first presence in nomenclature for Native peoples is Indian. For this reason, the term will be preferred here. Who got that elbow pack? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. City voice. All right, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. But before I do that, I want to show y'all this spider gorget. It's an ancient shell of the gorget from the Fans Island in Tennessee, and it depicts a spider. This is a spider. Look, eyes, tail, spider leg, spider leg, spider leg, spider leg. Phoenix Moon. She don't know nothing about this. The other dude, what's his name? Smoke Signal, or whatever his name is. He don't know nothing about this. The other dude who claimed to be an Aboriginal, this from Tennessee, he don't know nothing about this. And you've never heard any of them talk about this. So I just want to let y'all know. Now, the source of that is the Antiquities of Tennessee. So we know it's all the way 100. But like I said, this is teaching from Primaries. Let me move on a little bit. Oof. 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 Yeah. Went too far. All right. So there's the scientific theories of origin. I'm not really going to get into that because we're going to get into all the scientific, whatever we need to in a minute. Real quick. Here we go. The Paleo-Indian era through the agricultural revolution. I just want to hit you with a little bit of this, just to bring people up to speed to where we are right now. And we're dealing with what we're dealing with. Yeah, you can tell them I said that. Because we gonna show them something, and then they gonna do a live stream, and then they gonna claim they've been known about it. And then we've never heard that show or them have a conversation with us where they bring it up. But then they gonna claim that they knew about this. Watch. If they watch it, they gonna claim that they knew. Pseudos. The earliest period from the time that humans entered the Americas until 8000 BCE is known as the Paleo-Indian period. I'm going to repeat, the earliest period from the time that humans entered the Americas until the 8000 BCE mark is known as the Paleo-Indian period. During this time, humans spread throughout the Western Hemisphere, supporting themselves with similar substances, patterns, and technologies. Paleo-Indians, including the Clovis culture, were nomadic hunter-gatherers. They moved as frequently as once or twice a week. Yes. They moved as frequently as once or twice a week. Hunting the big game of the Paleolithic, the megafauna. As previously noted, well-known animals, such as the mammoth and mastodon, were included among the megafauna. Other North American megafauna included less well-known animals, such as a Welsh short-faced bear, the giant version of animals such as a sloth, moose, and beaver. Paleo-Indian technology included napped or chipped stone tools such as scrapers, knives, and projectile points, such as the Clovis point. Throughout the Paleo-Indian era, the spear was the most common weapon. At first, humans used spears as thrusting weapons, which of course require very close range between the hunter and game, a dangerous prospect at best. Sometimes during the Paleo-Indian era, humans developed new kinds of technology, including a lighter, throwing spear, and an implement to propel this spear much farther, the atlo. Now, the atlo, or ATL, or spear thrower, was one of the most important items in the Paleo-Indian toolkit. It was a long, thin piece of wood with a notch at the end. This notch was designed to receive the end of a spear. The ATL, or the alt-out, acted as an extension of the throwing arm, enabling the spear thrower to greatly increase the speed and range of the cast. In this first page, there's a lot of referring to archaeological evidence that would support the early man in the Americas. I want to make it clear that you just can't talk about a piece of history. You have to have other forms that would substantiate the piece of history. So what can we do to substantiate what we just read? We can go look at the archaeological record. We'll be able to find bones. We'll be able to find tools. Bones of what? Bones of, right, the megafauna that they were hunting, right? Remains. From there, we'll find DNA of people in the same area, if it's extractable. From there, that's going to tell us what tools they use to hunt the game. Ding, 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 ding. That's going to put a picture of people in a particular area hunting game and what weapons that they actually used at the time, and the punctures from the fight or attacking the particular megafauna and so forth will show us how they were killed. Y'all ain't thinking about none of that, huh? Nobody was thinking about that. All right, so Paleo-Indians probably lived in groups that anthropologists call bands, small groups. Remember I said that a few shows ago, small groups of related individuals, typically no bigger than 100 and 150 people. This setup allowed a simple leadership structure, probably one individual at the head of the group, to be an effective means of control. It also allowed for easy mobility in terms of possession. Hunter-gatherers such as Paleo-Indians lived with only easily transportable and reproducible possessions. That's why you see images of them walking in the snow and they walking with stuff that they can carry on their backs to their sides, holding their children's hands in those big old warm mammoth skin coats. Yeah. In terms of possessions, hunter and gatherers such as Paleo-Indians lived only easy transportable and reproducible possessions. One of the greatest problems of living in such a small group, however, was finding a suitable mate. Oh yeah, you know they got to get busy. Sexual selection is a reality around this thing. What up, Kwame? Now, anthropologists theorize that regional Paleo-Indian groups came together yearly in the summer months to celebrate. Celebrate what? Religious rituals, exchange news, and trade women to ensure genetic diversity among their groups. They came together to have an orgy. They were swinging. I ain't making this up. This is what anthropologists theorize. So, everything that we know about humans in the Americas from these early, hold up. I said a word that might be mischaracterized. Now, there's two forms of a theory. You have a theory with your homeboy, man. I think when dude took off running right there from the police, man, and well, let me take that back. Here's a street theory. Sure, bro, we can post up right here. Police come, we can hit that cut right there, split right there. Shoot, and we can come back, hop in the car, and pull off. That's a theory. And then you have a scientific theory, which don't go nothing like that little theory. Or the theory of how black women got big booties in the South. Oh yeah, them country girls, man, they all got them big booties, man. That's from eating all them potatoes and cornbread and stuff. All that soul food. That's a theory. A scientific theory requires evidence, right? Scientific theory is so evidence would be, let me see. Let's go back to the passage what we were just reading, right? Where it talked about stone making tools, weaponry, you know what I'm saying? People being in a particular area. So it would take evidence. What evidence do you have that support that? Well, we have genetic evidence, we have archaeological evidence that we extracted from a particular area to help tell the story of the people who were there. And we also found bones. We found bones of game, and we found burial sites and stuff like that, right? So now we have to test all of that evidence that we actually have, scrutinize it, substantiate it, bring it together, have it reviewed, and then when that evidence is substantiated, then it will come out, it would be boom, that's a different type of a theory. I'm only using that analogy because I don't want to be too scientific and go over people's head, which I figured that I would. All right, so there we go on that. But anyway, everything that we know about humans in the Americas from these earlier eras comes from the archaeological record. Perhaps the most famous Paleo-Indian site is the Blackwater Draw site near the Clovis, New Mexico. Blackwater Draw is the archaeological site where the large leaf-shaped Clovis points were first identified. As many Clovis period sites were excavated in the mid-20th century, Clovis points came to be one of the defining artifacts for Paleo-Indian era in North America. And anthropologists came to regard the Clovis culture as the first firmly established proof of human presence in the Americas. The Clovis first hypothesis held sway throughout much of the rest of the century, calling archaeological evidence that dated older than the 10,000 BCE unreliable. However, as more and more sites have produced reliable older dates, the coastal migration theory became more widely accepted. The Clovis first movement has lost favor. We talked about all that before. This is sad. This is sad. But let's continue. So what I want to do now is I want to come off of this and I want to introduce some science into the discussion to let you know where we really are with this. But hold up, before I do that, I got to get out of my National Archives joint. All right. And I want to go to my first little break here. Early evidence of humans in the Americas. There's a map here, and I'm gonna try to zoom in on it and let y'all see it really good. Okay. Again, this map says the early evidence of humans in the Americas. Now, there's a total of about 15 little dots all over here, and we're going to talk about them. So let's go. The first is the ice-free corridor from the Beringer. There's burial sites of 2 infants born with 2 different mothers. The sequence and remains of them lend support to the Beringer standstill hypothesis. Site number 2, coming into North America, is the Anzac Wilsall in Montana. This is 12,707 to 12,556 years old. The bare site of a young boy with more than 100 stone tools. All right. Years old. The bare site of a young boy with more than 100 stone tools. Oldest known Clovis area human remains to date. DNA indicates Siberian ancestry. So the first 2 sites, DNA was involved. And for the life of me, I don't understand why Aboriginals or so-called Aboriginals or indigenous people of the Americas don't want to do DNA, because DNA is helping substantiate that the first peoples come from the Beringer and have Siberian ancestry. But hold on, there's more. Number 3 is in the Great Lakes region. We talk in Wisconsin, 14,500 years old, 2 mammoth kill sites, and a set of butchering tools. Earliest pre-Clovis evidence from the Great Lakes region. Spotlight number 4, up there near Maine, or, well, North America. They say Meadowcroft Rock Shelter in Pennsylvania, 19,000, 16,000 years old. One of the largest continually inhabited camps in the Americas, spanning more than 15,000 years. Let's go to Maryland, number 5. 21,000 years ago. Soldier type points and tools supported with the soldier hypothesis. Virginia, number 6, 20 to 18,000 years ago. They got settlement camps which support the soldier hypothesis. Let's go all the way down to Florida. 14,450 years old mammoth kill sites, 200 kilometers from the coast, suggesting that people were already well adapted to making a living inland. Vero Man, Florida, 14,000 years. Human remains found on Vero Beach in 1915 were mirrored in controversy for decades. We can come all the way down to Chile, 18,000 years ago in 1982. Initial radiocarbon dates back to 1408. Ago turned the Clovis first model on his head. Number 10 is the Buttermilk Creek, Texas. 13 to 15,000 years old, 2 settlement sites called Galt and Deborah L. Freakin occupied for thousands of years. This is pre-Clovis and Clovis artifacts. Number 11, California, 10 to 13,000 years. Hundreds of bifaces and stem points found. Sea-based culture of the Kelp Highway. You see the Kelp Highway in green. 12. Paisley Caves in Oregon, 14,000 years ago. Human crapolites and pre-Clovis Western stem technology projectiles points found alongside bones from extinct camels and horses. DNA recovered from the coprolites points to a genetic ties to Southeast Asia and Siberia. Kennewick Man, 13,000 years ago. We all should know about that. Revealed a kinship with living Native Americans. Main kill site, Washington, 1308. Mastodon found pre-Clovis bone spirit and embedded in the animal's ribs. Number 15 is Hadelgui, which is British Columbia, 1308. Now an island, A Hadig Wali was one connected to the mainland. Archaeological sites are found underwater in the intertidal zone. So you should be able to see everything on the map. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All of that right there. See, we got to deal with this evidence, right? We got to have a conversation about evidence. We can't sit up here and just talk and read from. We got to have evidence. So to support this map, I want to go ahead and do this for the people. I want to make it to where you can fully understand what's going on. So here, I'm going to refer to another source regarding archaeology. This is an anthropologist group suggests first humans to the Americas arrived via the Kelp Highway. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, I just showed you in the previous map, this is why I do this. In the previous map, I showed you the Kelp Highway. It's in green. Hopefully y'all can see this real good. It's this little line right here off the coastline. This is called the Kelp Highway. Remember, before the last glacial maximum, the sea levels was pretty low. What up, EIE? All right, so back to this pimping. So here's a map right here. I'm gonna bring it up on screen so you can see it a little bit clearly. Archaeologists find show that pre-Clovis people arrived in the Americas before 13,000 years ago. All right, so as you can see, we got the Beringer up here, the Ushki Lake 13,000 years ago. We got all this stuff happening over here. We got the Pacific Ocean, and then we got some little detailed stuff over here. So, Sean, that ain't saying nothing. All right, cool. I want to zoom in a little bit. Maybe that's too much. Yeah, I can't get it. So, sorry if I hurt your ass. All right, so a team of anthropologists from several institutions in the U.S. had offered a perspective piece in the Journal of Science outlining current theories regarding the first humans to populate the Americas. In that paper, they scrapped the conventional view that Clovis people making their way across the Beringer Land Bridge were the first to arrive in the Americas. More recent evidence suggests others arrived far earlier using boats to travel just like offshore. Now, as the author note, for the most in the last century, they accepted the theory of humans' first arrival via the land bridge. But remember, y'all, you have two different theories here. You have the North Native American, how they come from the Beringer, and then you have the South Native Americans, how they arrived via boats or that highway, the Kelp Highway, which was interesting to their arrival. Now, I'm only bringing these things up to you to show you what actually transpired. Okay. So let me give you a little summary, and not give you the whole article. So for much of the 20th century, most archaeologists believe the humans first colonized the Americas 13,500 years ago via an overland route. They crossed the Beringer and followed along a narrow, most icy-free corridor to the vast plains of central North America. Their Clovis people and their descendants hunted large game and spread rapidly through the New World. 20th century discoveries of distinctive Clovis artifacts throughout North America, some associated with Mammoth and Mastodon kill sites, supported with Clovis first models. See the evidence? Mammoth and Mastodon kill sites. Tools that was used to kill them. Paths that were taken to hunt them down. This is accumulating evidence. So this we know of the people that came here first. North American coastlines and their rich marine, estuarine, riverine, and terrestrial ecosystems were peripheral to the story of how the Americas were first settled by humans. Recent work along the Pacific coastlines of North and South America has revealed that these environments were settled earlier and continuously provide a rich diversity of substance, options, and technological resources for New World hunter gatherers. Go get your genealogy for that shit. On to the next, on to the next one, on to the next, on to the next one. Freeze. Elbows, give us back our money, please. Give us back our money, please. An early sophisticated East Polynesian voyaging canoe discovered on New Zealand's coast. Did y'all know this? Or were y'all waiting on some real research to show up? Or real researchers, the real research guys over here at the Mossi Warrior Clan, Kofi Pi-Side research team and the families. Y'all wanted the real researchers on the scene. Well, an early sophisticated East Polynesian voyaging canoe discovered on New Zealand's coast. This is significant. So I'm going to give you just a little summary, right? Not the whole thing, because, I know y'all impatient. But I'm going to give you a little summary. First, I just wanted to show y'all. Oh, you just talking the white man talk. No, dog. That ain't happening at all, dog. Look at this. Look at this. Come look at this shit. Look at this shit. Look at it. What is this? What the hell is this? Let me go on back up here, bro. Before I get going. Look at this shit. They even drawing turtles on that bitch. Look at this shit. Look at this shit. They scanned the images of the boat. The canoe. Look at this shit. Look at that. An Awaki canoe reconstruction. Oh, look at this shit. Look at this. Look at this. This is evidence, ladies and gentlemen, that you've never seen before on any of those channels. Never. Because they don't follow science. And they will never follow science because they're too busy with an agenda. So, let me go ahead and get it to you straight. I ain't dealing with pseudotech. The colonization of the islands of East Polynesia was a remarkable episode in history of human migration and seafaring. We report an ocean sailing canoe dating from close to that time. A large section of a complex composite canoe was discovered recently at Anawika of the New Zealand coast. The canoe dates to approximately 1400 AD and was contemporary with continuing inter-island voyaging. It was built in New Zealand as an early adaptation to new environment, and a sea turtle carved on its hull makes symbolic connections with the wider Polynesian culture and art. We describe, define, and identify and radiocarbon date the construction material. We present a reconstruction of the whole canoe and compare it to another earlier canoe previously discovered in the Society's island. Now, I know what you're thinking, but that says 1400. But then you forget about the canoe they found in South America way down there at the bottom. See, I'm only just trying to show you the way, right? I ain't trying to change your mind. I ain't trying to convince you. I'm just trying to show you the evidence and where it leads you. Wherever your conclusion is your conclusion. But this article you've never seen before. A lot of you probably haven't ever seen it before, but I'm sure, right, that there's a few people out here that's like me who actually read and research. All right, so I wanted to come back down to the conclusion and let y'all see it all right here. It says, the Anawika canoe was a large, sophisticated, and powerful craft. It was last around 1400 AD. The canoe had already been repaired and reused. It was active and exposed to open sea coast of the South Islands where it could hardly have operated without a sail. The canoe was broken up in large sections of hull and was found just north of an entrance to the sheltered inlet of the Anahuac estuary. It was contemporary with archaic archaeological communities, which were linked along the length of New Zealand. The canoe was not many human generations removed in the time period of New Zealand settlement by consideration of the diverse East Polynesian population, involving many voyages spread over some generations. Some of these voyages, as told in tradition, may have evolved returns. The Kimdek and Norfolk Islands could still have been visited uh, well, periodically, and the subarchaic Auckland Islands had been reached already. The age of the settlement of the Shemptons is yet to be resolved, but this group could have been part of the widespread sphere of early voyaging among the New Zealand's and South Pacific neighbors. The Anahuac Waka provides new information about ancestral moray canoe technology and insights into early technology and seafaring in tropical East Polynesian. But it do what it do. Like I said, man, I'm just lining up the science, right? With the timeline. I'm lining the science up with the timeline. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this is a well-organized truth. So I'm gonna take it back again about this whole human thing, but I just want to kind of show you what a needle is. Evidence of humans in the North America during the last glacial maximum. Now I showed this source before in paleoanthropology, and it's telling you right here we got early footsteps in the Americas, and the dating of that goes back to 23 to 21,000 years, right? And I don't want to bore you out with a bunch of it, but why do we find this right here? Guess why we find this right here? Because down lake levels and allow humans and megafauna to walk through a newly exposed surfaces, creating tracks that became preserved in the geologic record. Geology. We got a whole lot going on right here, ladies and gentlemen. Will the real researchers please stand up? The human footprints date to 21 to 23,000 years ago, changing that 15,000 that we saw initially. But it don't stop there, because I'm just only here to make you learn. Not make you learn, I'm sorry. I'm only here to help you learn. I ain't here to make you think. I'm here to help you learn. So here go the genetic history of the Native Americans. Several theories have been put forth as the origin and timing when the Native American ancestors entered the Americas. To clarify this controversy, Haven examined the genomic variations among ancients and modern individuals from Asia and the Americas. I'm gonna run that back. They examined the genomic variations among ancient and modern individuals from Asia and the Americas. There is no evidence for multiple waves of entry or recurrent gene flow with Asians in northern populations. The earliest migrations occurred no earlier than 23,000 years ago from Siberian ancestors, and Amerindians and Athabascans originated from a single population splitting approximately 13,000 years ago. Come on, bro. They go the whole, listen, everything that I talk about, the whole source is in here. I'm only giving you the spoonful because I know your attention span. So ain't no sense in doing a long lecture. We can just build and we can go source after source after source after source after source after source after source, and you ain't gonna be these people because you're not no Paleo Indians. In a 2014 article drawn by the Mexican Genomic Study revealed huge variations in ancestry. Oh, you thought that all these people was the same? No, 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 no. So I'm gonna give you a little piece of this, and I'm gonna let you know what's going on with these people. So in the most comprehensive genetic study of Mexican population to date, researchers from UC San Francisco and Stanford University, along with Mexican National Institute of Genomic Medicine, have identified tremendous genetic diversity reflecting thousands of years of separation among local populations and shedding light on a range of confounding aspects of Latino health. The study, which documented nearly 1 million genetic variations among more than 1,000 individuals, unveiled genetic differences as extensive as the variations between some Europeans and Asians, indicating populations that have been isolated for hundreds to thousands of years. These differences occur as an explanation for a wide variety of health factors among Latinos and Mexican descent, including differing rates of breast cancer, asthma, as well as therapeutic response. Results on the study, which were UCSF and Stanford shared, both first and senior authors appeared in June 13 online article. Boom, science. So you can get into this if you want to, but there are three distinct genetic clusters in Mexico. All right. So give me a second, and I want to play this. But first, the researchers focus on Mexico as one of the most largest sources of pre-Columbian diversity, with a long history of complex civilizations that had a varying contribution in the present-day population. Working collaboratively across the institutions, the team enlisted 40 experts ranging from bilingual anthropologists to statistical geneticists, computational biologists, and clinicians, as well as researchers from multiple institutions in Mexico and other forms of English, French, Puerto Rico, and Spain. Watch this. Hold on. My bad. I got some drink. But hold on. Let me get the audio. I forgot. I mean, it'll show you the source, but it should have showed you the audio though, the way I was sharing. But I gotta be more specific. Y'all gotta hear this though. Why y'all ain't say nothing, man? Y'all just sitting there looking. Now we can hear. Bruh, I've been the whole thing was playing, bro. You telling me y'all couldn't hear it? Oh, let me go back. Let me get my source back. All right. You see it. USL. Let me know if y'all can hear it. No. I'm gonna start it over. Cause y'all need to hear what he was saying.
When we use words like black, white, or race, we're not being scientific. We're not being clear. We're looking at the color of the skin instead of looking at their biology. But scientists use words like European
Hold up. Now, I want y'all to really listen to what he say right here. And I want you to think about all the arguments that you've been having with people. Listen to what this doctor says right here. It's game over right here.
or race. We're not being scientific.
Say it again, doc.
When we use words like black, white, or race, we're not being scientific. We're not being clear. We're looking at the color of the skin instead of looking at their biology.
We're looking at the color of their skin instead of looking at their biology. So when you claim to be indigenous or claim things like Indians was black people, you are not being scientific. You are not looking at the person's biology. So watch the rest of the video and see what these people are interested in. And I apologize that I had to replay this because it was fire.
But scientists use words like European, African, or Asian to refer to genetic ancestry, which is where that person's ancestral background is coming from. And that may help us to understand the genetic basis of some diseases.
Take a big breath. Again. So asthma is an inflammatory disorder of the airways, the lungs, and it's the most common chronic disorder of children.
Just being normal.
What do you feel? What is an asthma attack to you?
Like sometimes I'm really scared because I feel dizzy, I feel short of breath, I feel like I'm going to pass out.
Okay. Asthma prevalence in the United States varies tremendously by race and ethnicity.
Take a big breath in and blow.
Mexican Americans have the lowest prevalence and lowest mortality from asthma. Caucasians, African Americans are intermediate, and the population in the United States with the highest prevalence, the highest severity, the highest death rates are Puerto Ricans. Are you taking your medications?
Yes.
What are you taking?
I'm taking my Cubor, which is
These differences have been known for a long time, but I hypothesize that the difference in asthma prevalence and severity were due to genetic differences, and ancestry might help to explain those differences.
When you take people who have ancestry from Europe or from Asia or from Africa and you look at their genome, you will find differences as a result of human history. Human genetic variation is a result of groups that have lived isolated from each other for a very long time. So when you look at people from continental Africa, for example, they have had to adapt to different environments. And you will be able to see certain genetic characteristics that you may not necessarily see at the same frequency when you look at people who predominantly have lived most in Asia or in Europe. So by sequencing these geographically separated populations, we were able to create a reference. So now you give me your blood,
Beautiful.
and I'm able to now compare your DNA
That didn't hurt, did it?
No.
to that reference.
So once I receive the tube of blood from the clinic, we will spin it down. And once we spin it down, we'll see 3 layers. And in those layers, the first layer is going to be a plasma layer. We extract the plasma first. And then you'll take your red cells and your white cells. And from that, you will rupture all your red cells. And then all your white cells will be intact. The white cells is what we're interested in, and that has all of your DNA.
The DNA that Celeste extracts ends up going onto what we call a gene chip, which is designed to probe very specific parts of the genome. And these are regions that we know have variation between different people from different parts of the world. Here we've actually taken the information from the gene chip for a Puerto Rican individual, and we've been able to estimate ancestry across the entire genome. And here's a representation of all the chromosomes from 1 to 22. And what you can see is that at each position, this individual has European, Native American, or Sub-Saharan African ancestry. And when we compare a large number of individuals, we can see whether there's a difference in the ancestry patterns between people with asthma and people who don't have asthma. And in fact, what we found is that there's a region on chromosome 18 where we see that people with asthma tend to have more Native American ancestry and less European ancestry.
Can you explain these lines?
It's the same.
We use Ancestry right now because it gives us a clue as to where to find the gene that's involved in the pathogenesis of asthma. So that suggests that it's being driven by at least one of these 2 genes.
Right. Mapping.
When we know those specific genes, we can genetically test each individual and determine what their risk factor is at a given region of the genome, and forget about this notion of race and ethnicity.
Asian, European, African,
And that's a significant
or
difference.
Hispanic. Those are all shorthands that will go away with time. When we actually know what genes individuals carry, then we can look at the whole genome in a systematic manner and see where we find things that may be related to disease or health.
Take a big breath.
And once we're able to do that, then race is completely irrelevant.
All right, so I want y'all to breathe on that information right there and think about what he said. Even though they're looking at this to help them with diseases and stuff like that, but that just shows you the emphasis on how genetics help answers other questions. And skin tight ain't the right fight. So you can't go by the skin, you got to go by the biology because it's in the DNA that tells you who you really are. Now, I want to continue to build. I could stop right there, end the video, and move on because If anyone is to respond to anything that is presented in this or use any information that is presented in this, that's on the other side of this argument, y'all gonna get yourself in trouble trying to cherry pick. So Native Americans are not all the same. An exploration of indigenous diversity. The largely incorrect and well-established perception regarding Native Americans as all residing the exact social, traditional, economic, and religious boundaries have been determined to realizing the breadth of diversity exhibited between the various tribal communities throughout America. So look at the Americas like we look at Africa, right? When we look to Africa, we know that there's a lot of diversity in Africa. It's the same thing in the Americas. Why is that so? Especially when they're coming from Siberians, Southeast Asians, Oceania people, stuff like that. I know what you're thinking. But I'm gonna give you a little dose of this. It's 10 minutes long. I don't even want to read this to y'all. I'm gonna let the person read it. Nah, you know what? I ain't even gonna do that to y'all. If you wanna know about this particular source and the diversity, I'm gonna allow you to come back and check that out in the source description. Now, the reason that I'm doing that is because it's 10 minutes long and I don't want to waste y'all brain cells with the way this thing can read. So I just wanted to put that on. I'm gonna put that on the screen, and I'm gonna get into my other points because I'm down to my last couple of little sources that I want to make here. So earlier we talked about the DNA explained and genetic stuff like that. Look, genetic genealogy. Guess what? Ancestors of Native Americans in Asia was 30% Western Eurasian. The complete genome has recently been sequenced from 4-year-old Russian boy who died 24,000 years ago near Lake Baikal in a location called Malta. The area in Asia believed to be the origin of the Native American-based Y DNA and mitochondrial chromosome similarities. The map below from Science News shows the location. Malta, over here, ladies and gentlemen. Siberia is up here. The Beringer is up here. This right here is unique. I'm just making an argument clear here, my guys. I ain't gonna give you all of it. I'm gonna give you some. This represents the oldest complete genome ever sequenced, except for the Neanderthal and the Denisovan. This child's genome shows that he is related closely to Native Americans and surprisingly to Western and Eastern Europeans, Western Asian and Eastern Europeans, but not to Eastern Asians, to whom Native Americans are more closely related. This implies that this child was a member of part of a tribe that had not yet merged or intermarried with Eastern Asian, Japan, China, etc. That then became the original Native American who migrated across the Beringer land bridge between 15 and 20,000 years ago. One of the most surprising results is that about 30% of this child's genome is Eurasian, meaning from Europe and Western Asia, including his Y haplogroup, which is R, and his mitochondrial haplogroup, which is U, both today considered European. This does not imply that R and U are Native American haplogroups or that they are found among Native American tribes before European admixture. In the past 700 years, there is still absolutely no evidence in the Americas in burials or any other haplogroup other than subgroups Q and C for males and A, B, C, D, X, and M for females. However, that doesn't mean the additional evidence won't be found in the future. While this is certainly new information, it's not unprecedented. Last year in the Journal of Genetics, an article titled Ancient Admixture in Human History reported something similar, albeit gene flow in a different direction. This paper indicated gene flow from the Lake Baikal area to Europe. It certainly could have been bidirectional. And this new paper certainly suggests that it is. So in essence, maybe there's a little bit of Native American and Europeans and a little bit of European and Native Americans that occurred in a deep ancestry, not in the past 5 to 1,000 years. What's next? Work continues. The team is now attempting to sequence genomes from other skeletons from West Mall to East Asia and from the Americas as well. Drop that on y'all. See, it ain't skin folk. Now, to be a little funny, right? Just to be a little funny, right? I wanted to be a little funny. So just to be a little bit funny, we got all these people talking about this, talking about that, saying they got this, saying they got that. Guess how they got the goddamn yam? DNA shows how the sweet potato crossed the sea. Guess where the sweet potato come from? Historical specimens reveal that the early travelers brought the tuber to Polynesia. What? Huh? How'd they get that? The humble sweet potato is an immigrant to Oceania, native to South America. The tuber has proliferated through Polynesia and the surrounding Pacific Islands, but no one is sure how it got there. Using genetic evidence from the Iberian specimens, and modern crop researchers have narrowed down the root of the sweet potato, which could provide clues as to movements of the people who carried it. I ain't gonna waste y'all time. Have fun with this one. Historical specimens will be crucial to elucidating these patterns. The sweet potatoes collected by Captain Cook's voyage, for example, provided time control data that showed the importance of continuing to curate such specimens in the world museums. Keep on. Have fun with this one. They got them sweet potatoes from the back way. I just wanted to have a little fun, y'all. Put the sweet potatoes in y'all face. All right, so you heard me earlier talk about game. I kept mentioning game and the importance of game and what the hell that had to do with the people over here and so on and so forth. So New Mexico mammoths are among the best evidence for early humans in North America. That is why the game is important. I'm not going to read the entirety of the article for you, but I'm going to give you some information in the first paragraph. Austin, Texas, about 37,000 years ago, a mother mammoth and her calf met their end at the hands of human beings. Bones from the butchering site record how humans shaped pieces of the large bones into disposable blades to break down their carcasses and rendered their fat over fire. But a key detail sets this site apart from the other areas. It is in New Mexico, a place where most archaeological evidence does not place humans until tens of thousands of years later. A recent study led by scientists with the University of Texas at Austin finds that the site offers some of the most conclusive evidence for humans settling in North America much earlier than the conventional thought. You see all of the bones and stuff broken up here. This is a close-up of the bone pile. The researchers revealed a wealth of evidence rarely found in one place. The key word for Aboriginal, Indigenous, faking like they're Native Americans is evidence. What is your evidence? I don't care nothing about genealogy. What is your evidence? If you're a researcher, demonstration beats conversation. Provide your evidence. Now, it includes fossils with the blunt force fractures, bone flake knives with worn edges, and signs of controlled fire. And thanks to carbon dating analysis and collagen extracted from the mammoth bones, the site also comes with a settled age of 36 to 38,000 years old. That's why they pushing back these whole estimates and they're doing all of these other things. Now, this article, don't let me go too far because I don't want nobody to jump out the window, was published August 1, 2022 in UT News under their science and technology site. But there's more that needs to be done with this, okay? They go back and they do some scanning. They're doing a whole lot of stuff, but let me give it to you how they give it to you. The CT scan of the mammoth rib, 48 seconds. That's a mammoth rib. You see how they got that? You see how archaeologists go and get that? Now that date of 30-something thousand is actually challengeable because it could be more closely related to 16,000 years ago, as it says. The uncertainty has led to a debate of anthropology communities when humans first arrived in North America. Homer's culture was day 16,000 says one thing, but all of this stuff goes into pushing back stuff. This mom's still playing. But all of that is important now. So, real quick, I want to come back to teaching with primaries. But before I come back to teaching with primaries, I know I've been rambling for about an hour and a half. And it's a lot of good information in here and sources that are available to everybody in the description of the video. Yeah, you cannot throw DNA out. That was the point. Chavez got the point. Instead of me actually saying it, Chavez got the actual point. You cannot throw DNA out in this conversation. It is well much needed because phenotypically you cannot make an argument because someone says dark skin. That does not speak for the genetic makeup or the biology of that particular person. So more evidence is warranted for you to go out there and show and prove that you supposedly been here this entire time. And we know it's not you because we had the evidence of the people and we know we know their biology. We know where they came from. We know what they were susceptible to. We got all that. Now, what's more interesting is, was there a trade between the people who populated South America in its earliest stages and the people in Oceania? Because how the hell does the sweet potato get there? Knowing that it came from South America. Boom! Nobody talking about that. None. So I'll put the link in the chat for anybody that wanted to hop on real quick. If you want to contend, if you want to argue against any other information that has been stated in this particular build, we can go to whichever source you would like to go to, and we can clear it all the way up. If there's something that I didn't read in its entirety and you want it read in its entirety to dismiss or say that we can't use X, Y, and Z, feel free to hit the link and check with me. And we'll go through it. But right now, your whole genealogy, that ain't gonna work. It's not happening. So I know there's a delay, and I'm waiting. I'm waiting. And yes, I did leave that book, Teaching American Indian History with Primary Sources. I don't even care if the quote unquote fake eyeballs copy it or whatnot. They're gonna get this work. This dang book messed them up too. What y'all think happened? That's why they don't want to do DNA, because if they take a DNA test, it's gonna show a whole lot of, it's gonna tell a whole nother story about them. It's gonna tell a whole nother story about them. So they're gonna mock science, but they always talking about phenotype. I don't understand you guys. How can you go on a panel, have a show, and discuss phenotype, and then run away from the other elements of science that requires you to use in order to substantiate that phenotype? Like, I say I'm African American, and I say that I have African ancestry, and I descend from people who were kidnapped from West and Central Africa and brought to the Americas. You're gonna be like, how you gonna do that? My biological makeup. My biological makeup. I ain't gotta go to the fifth grandmama. I can go to my great grandmother who told me about her mother. Told me about her father, right? And her father's grandfather. Her father's father, which would be her great grandfather. On both sides. because we know what transpired eventually when the white man got a hold of to the mother on that side. He went ski, ski, ski. So ain't nobody responding, bro. So it looked like people are here just basically, you know what I mean, to learn. And I appreciate everybody being here to learn. You know what I'm talking about? I'm doing that again anyway. Smoke Rotel. I gotta come back and hit my Smoke Rotel with this little secret sauce I got. Yeah. Who responded? We're on your head, sucker. Yep. Who responded? You were beaten up. I missed the first 25 minutes of the show. Who you beating up? Oh. I was talking about old pseudo dude from yesterday with Sutek. Played the video of dude, you know what I mean, who called himself the research guy, but he don't have any information. But again, man, do I need to play that video again from the African scientist that was actually speaking? Yes or no, maybe so? Okay. And I'm gonna keep this right at an hour and a half. It's very digestible. I appreciate everybody tapping in. Make sure to like the show, share the show, tell a friend, and we make things happen because we do real work. Spills are flying, pseudos are crying.